I know there's a lot of kind of fear about the future of the economy, and summer's coming up, so there's fear of losing students from that summer swing that happens. So I'm just excited to have this time available for you to help equip you with some solutions to those problems. Because if we have problems, we don't have solutions, then we just have problems. If we have solutions, then we actually have growth, right? We have an opportunity to grow if we can solve those problems. That's what separates successful schools from schools that are stuck. Successful schools solve problems. Everyone has the same problems. It's a matter of, can you solve it? So that's what we're here to do today, is to help you solve what's going on. So I am excited for this afternoon.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah, buddy. And really, I mean, we want to help you have clarity. And maybe you're just the type of person that's like, I don't comment on a Facebook post. I got questions that are like more specific to me. If you've got real specific questions to your school, we're happy to jump on a call with you too. We do game plan calls. There's nothing for sale on these calls. It's just a quick way for us to kind of get to know each other. It's more intimate than a live stream like this. But you can't buy anything on it. It's just really a way for us to ask you a few questions, you to ask us some questions. So if you would rather have a more kind of intimate conversation with us, just type the word game in the comments right now. We'll reach out to you via messenger. So you don't even have to type a whole complete sentence, just one word. Game. If you type the word game, GAME, we'll reach out. We'll set up a call with you, and we could do it one-on-one. But for those of you here, maybe you're not ready for a phone call yet. Maybe you prefer to be in a group. Some people prefer to be in a group setting too. We want to know what your questions are. We want to know how we can help you grow your school. So let us know. Drop those comments right now in the chat. And when we see those comments come in, and we're watching live, so it looks like we got a good group on here between all the platforms. So bring it in. So for those of you just joining us, what we're doing is a very unscripted live chat where you get to chat in your questions, and then we're going to answer them. So we're not holding anything back. We're not giving you like any kind of nonsense. You ask us a question, we're going to give you the best possible answer that's going to help you the best to grow your school. So just in case you're wondering, who are we and how did we have the credibility to do this? We have helped, I think the last time I checked was 420 plus schools, 420 martial arts schools enroll over 33,000 paying students. So, if you had a chance to sit down with us like you do right now and ask us questions, we might not have the only way, but it's the best way that we found after doing it 33,000 times. So ask us a question. We want to answer it. We want to help you. That's what we exist for. Our sole purpose in this group is to help you grow your school, get your questions answered. So that's really where we're at. And I'm trying to, are you seeing the questions? Are you seeing?
Yeah, questions are coming in. I actually have one from Paul, who I spoke with last week as well. He and I were on one of those game plans and just talking about his school. And one of his concerns is a concern that a lot of school owners have. So Paul, if you have more to elaborate on this, go ahead and throw it in the comments in the chat. Hey, if I invest money in growth, and it needs to be the word investment, right? Because if it's an expense, that means it doesn't come back. So we got to look at this as, hey, an investment is something I put money in and more money comes back. An expense is something that just goes out, right? So Paul's question, he and I talked a lot about it. If I invest in something to grow my school, how do I know it's going to work? How do I guarantee that this is going to be something that is good for me? And I think that's a question that a lot of school owners have from varying degrees when anytime we put money into something for our school. Like if we buy mats, we know the mats are going to work, right? We know we're going to put them down. But if I invest money into something that's going to get me students, I guess the question would be, how do I know it's going to be something that works? John, how would you, because that's really a mindset thing, but also there are some certain things we want to look for in what we invest in to make sure it is something that's a proven process and is going to return students. So what would you say to that, John?
I love the question. It's a great question because it's a question that a lot of people have. So I think there's a couple things. First of all, one question you have to ask yourself is, why do you think it wouldn't work? Like, where is that coming from? Have you tried things in the past that didn't work? Have you invested in things and had certain expectations and then found those not to be met? Were there frustrations? Or is it more of like a thing like, I'm not sure I'm equipped to actually do the things that are laid out for me? Because as you know, no matter who you hire or no matter what you do, if you were to just go like to college and learn how to do marketing, you still have to do stuff, right? But if you were to hire like some professional to do your marketing for you, you still have to do stuff. You can't turn it all over to somebody else. It's impossible. It doesn't exist. So as a school, especially for a martial arts school, the revenues and the cash flows of a martial arts school really make it difficult to outsource all that stuff in a profitable way. So I would say if the process has been proven over 400 schools, our process. So I can't speak for other platforms or other systems out there, but for us personally, we've proven it in over 400 different locations. And within those, it's not been like one particular type, one particular brand. It's been like little mom and pop spots that started out with 4 or 5 students and then grew to 100, 200 students. There's also been other ones that were part of huge organizations like the ATA or Premier that started out with 50 students and then went to 100, 200 students. We've also had school owners who, are just sort of like part of maybe a mid-sized organization where there's only like 20 to 40 schools within that organization. Same thing. So what's happened is we've been able to take a process, distill it down, make it super simple for anybody to follow, and then we have the data. We've proven it over 33,000 times. That's paying students. Paid trials is probably closer to 70,000 paid trials. And that is the revenue that pays for the ad. So there's always a level of risk when it comes to marketing. There's a level of risk to buy mats, to be honest. If you're going to buy mats from somewhere, they might tell you all the benefits of these mats, but at the end of the day, you still have to put the money down before you get the mats. You got to install them. And if something goes wrong, you could have a water leak and destroy your mat. There's always risk involved in anything you do. There's nothing
Right.
that's guaranteed in life. But I would say to hedge your bets, to make it the most likely that you're going to succeed, the first thing is you got to believe in yourself that it's possible. And that's really one of the main things that we try to do in this group is just to help encourage you to know that it's possible. We want to open up the mind and say, this is something maybe I can do. If they can do it, why can't I do it? Because there's nothing special about me. There's nothing special about Travis. When it comes to the marketing and doing stuff, it's just we've done it so much that we've learned the process. In fact, I think if there's anything special about us, it's like I could probably make you a list of 100 ways we failed at running ads for martial arts schools,
Right.
and one way that has worked really well. So if you look at how those odds are kind of stacked, like we've already made all the mistakes for you. We've already figured out. If you were like, oh, have you ever tried? I can't tell you how many times somebody's gotten on a call and been like, hey, I had this idea. I want to try this new thing, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, oh, yeah, we did that in 6 other schools and it didn't work over there. You could try it. I'm not going to tell you not to try it, but I can tell you the 6 times we tried it, it didn't work.
Right.
So I don't know if that's sort of my my unscripted answer. I don't know if what
I
do you
think
think,
I think
Travis? Do
one
you have
thing
to
that isn't
answer that?
talked about a lot when it comes to decisions is what's the cost of indecision? What's the
Mm,
cost of not? So a lot of times we think of the cost of doing something and then we stop there, right? The risk of doing something. But we don't really take a step back and look the other way where we say, well, what's the cost of not doing something? And if it's not
mm,
even investing in a marketing process or a coaching process or a system, what's the cost of not getting new mats? Right? Hey, this is going to be a big expense. Well, what's the cost of that expense? When people come in, do 3 students say, hey, I don't want to be a part of this school because it looks a little worn down? And your student keep rate is about 18 months. Well, then the mats would have been paid for by themselves with those 3 students that would have signed up. Right. So by not getting new mats, we lost 3 students. By not investing, I've talked to school owners that are, I need about 3 more months and then I'm ready to make this decision. And I get that. But then in that 3 months, they've lost 30 students because 3 months of our process should be about 30 students, give or take. So they've lost, if they're charging 150 a month, they've lost thousands and thousands of dollars to not invest a few $100s kind of thing. So one of those things we need to ask ourselves, and they're important questions. I'm not saying one is the right answer one way or another. Everybody's in a different spot. But when we ask ourselves, what's the risk of investing in something? Well, what's the risk of not investing in something? Both of those questions need to be answered. And one of them is going to outweigh the other. Typically, in my experience, not taking action is more costly than taking action. I mean, if you think about really anything in your life, relationships, health, martial arts, right? If some kid's being bullied or needs that confidence, like, well, our schedule is busy right now. It's just not the right time. We'll do it next year. Well, that's a year lost and a year of being bullied or confidence that he missed out on because of scheduling conflicts or things like that. So what in my experience is we got to make sure we're asking ourselves, what's the cost of not investing? We get so caught up in what's the risk of doing something, what's the risk of not doing something, and that's an important thing to ask yourself.
That's a way better answer than mine. I totally agree with that.
No,
What
I
he
think
said.
they were both good, John. You did a great job as well, sir. Well, and kind of to
100%.
that,
100%.
anytime we do something new and some questions are coming in, keep putting them in the comments, guys. Are you getting any value out of this? If you're getting value, if you're starting to say, "Oh, I've never really asked myself that question," I didn't know. That's something that came to me a few months ago, just talking to a school owner where they were really struggling, and it was kind of like, well, what if you don't figure this out? That's the cost if you don't get this problem solved. And it really was an eye opener for me. So if you're getting value, go ahead and type value in the comments. I see a couple people typing value. That's awesome. We have a lot of
Mhm.
these things dialed in. That's one thing that people don't really like. They don't like the word mindset because they think they have it all figured out. But you all know you've had students that are really talented, but their mindset stinks, and they just need to kind of shift how they view things a little bit. And that's one of the things we help people with is becoming mentally the owner that you want to be. Getting out of one school owner that I talked that's in our student magnet program. His first month of our program, his calendar was full for like 6 weeks. He filled out his whole calendar, and he told me when he and I first talked that he's a self sabotager. He always is his own worst enemy. When things start going good, he finds way because he doesn't believe that he can achieve that level of success. And he called me, luckily for him, and credit to him for calling me. And he and I talked through that, hey, this is just another, because he wanted to shut off his ads because things were going so well. And we discovered this was just another way for him to kind of kill his own momentum in a way. And luckily for him, he had someone to call that's worked with over 400 school owners and could give him expert advice that isn't based on feeling, but based on actual data and information to make the best decisions. So this is the kind of stuff we have dialed in that we help people with. It's not just like, hey, here's a check. Now go get me students and very transactional. We
Yeah.
care about the quality of our instructors and the quality of the school and what they're doing. In fact, those are the wins we look for, personal wins. Because
Mhm.
if you have personal wins, then you'll have business wins. Personal wins lead to business wins. So if that's something you're like, hey, I've never really had a coach, I've never really had someone to give me that input, go ahead and just type in the word game right now, and we'll set you up on a call just to see if, hey, can we help you? Are we a good fit? Are we aligned in what you're trying to accomplish and how we help people accomplish it? And just learn more about your school. And maybe on that game plan, we can just provide you a little bit of insight onto what you need to do right now. And also, if it's a good fit for us to kind of dig a little bit deeper, then we talk about what that looks like too. So go ahead and type the word game if you're looking like, all right, hey, I need someone to help me with opening my eyes to some things and opening the mental picture of what my school can be. Um, Another question that came in, John, and I'm getting kind of talky here, so you can take this question, is
Talkie.
kind of along the same lines. Anytime I try something new, it's something new, and there's kind of personal risk of what if I don't know how to do it? What if I'm not successful? A lot of school owners, 99% of school owners did not open their school to be tech geniuses and marketing gurus. They wanted to teach classes. So, what would you say to someone that's like, hey, I'm not tech savvy or I don't have the time to do this? I just want to pay someone else to do it and just kind of put it off the plate and not have to worry about the growth of my business. I'll let someone else grow my business for me.
Yeah. I love that question too because it does come up sometimes. So, I would say, what would you say to a student who walked into your school, a potential student that came in and was maybe interested in learning your art, but they said, "Well, I'm not very athletic. I'm not very flexible. I'm not sure I can learn this. I've never done anything like this before." That's almost like the ideal situation, right? They have no bad habits. They haven't learned anything wrong. Sometimes it's more frustrating for us as coaches to get someone who has like a background in sales or marketing. Not to say that that stuff doesn't have value, because a lot of times it does, but oftentimes it gets in the way of just simplifying the process. What we do is so different than what all the other sales people are training and all the other marketing people are training. And it's so simple. Like, we've just taken it and just really stripped it down of all the nonsense, which is another reason, to be perfectly transparent, why it's hard to come up with content for this group, because we've simplified it so much that we can't just like embellish on stuff. Like, I see so many people, and not to say that they're doing anything wrong, but so many people are just producing content out there just because it's available. Like, I'm in a lot of marketing groups. I've seen like 50 posts about this new thing called Chat GTP or GPT, some AI, how they're using it for marketing. And then I've seen some people that have tried to regurgitate some of that stuff and niche it down into for the martial arts. I can't imagine a time when you're going to need to use that as a martial arts school owner. I mean, it just
And even if there is, it's so new that there's no way whatever they're telling you to do is like tested and proven that
yeah,
hey, this is gonna work and save me time. You're kind of the guinea pig.
right.
Right?
And it's definitely not simple. It's definitely not easy. And I see people posting stuff like, with a background in marketing, it's easy for me to kind of see through like, oh, I've seen that, or oh, that's from 2012, or okay, I've tried that. But for a school owner, it's hard to sift through all that stuff and be like, what is this really like? What is this? Uh, what's the value of this for real? I see so much. One thing that can I just be like totally just raw? I'm
Let's
so
do it, John.
aggravated by seeing content calendars for martial arts school owners. Like, a posting count. Here's all the posts you need to do for the next year. And then I go like, okay, maybe there's some value in that if you just love posting stuff, you just don't know what to post. But every time I've gotten on a call, because believe me, I try and find new ways and better ways, and we're always trying to beat our system. We haven't just like created a system where we're like ours is the best, no one can beat it. We don't even try. Like, I'm always testing. Travis can attest to this. I'm constantly. Some of our members of our Legacy Masters Academy can attest because they like to be guinea pigs. They opted in. They want to be guinea pigs. So we're like, hey, try this thing. Try this thing. I'm always trying to beat it. Never in my entire life of marketing have I ever been able to talk to a person who creates content where they can actually draw a line from the content to a new student. 0 times. No one does that. They can make up like little scenarios in their head where they're like, well, I posted every day and people liked it and people commented on it. And then someone came in and they were like, hey, I like all your stuff on Facebook. That story is totally made up. No one has ever said, I've seen all your posts on Facebook all the time. And so I decided to just come into your school one day and join. That does not happen. I mean, maybe there's some story on the fringe, but it doesn't really exist. However, I can tell you, if you run an ad, I can tell you exactly how much you should spend to where you should expect to see a lead, expect to see a student. It's very traceable. It's very trackable. And
Right.
so I kind of got lost on what question am I answering here,
So
Travis?
yeah, you got a little off on a tangent, but that's an important tangent because unfortunately, there's a lot of things out there that like, hey, if you're going to do it yourself, here's the mountain of work that you need to do.
Right.
And it doesn't need to be that way. In fact, our identity as far as like business people is, hey, how can we simplify things so we can enjoy our lives? One of the biggest success stories I love is when school owners say, hey, I launched the student magnet system. Then I went on vacation. Can't tell
I
you how
love it.
many times we hear about
We
this.
hear it so much. It's
They
awesome.
go on vacation and they take a few days to launch the system. It really doesn't take that long because we have it so dialed in. They go on vacation, they come back and their calendar's full of intros while they were at Disney World or at the beach. And they weren't even doing anything. They were at the beach and at Disney World. They weren't like on their computer on the beach, scheduling intros and posting, all that kind of stuff. They were spending time with their family. And I love that because that's what we want. John and I are
Right.
constantly talking about, hey, I want to spend time with my wife and my daughter. He wants to spend time with his wife and two kids. And we want to play golf and go on all these trips and things like that while still helping people and still growing our business and still doing things. So it's like our identity to help you do that same type of thing. So to the question of, hey, how difficult is this? I'm not a tech guru. Listen, we've worked with probably almost 450 schools somewhere in there. The number kind of changes every week because we're constantly helping people and it's hard to keep track of every week adding more. And it's really not what we're about. We're not like, hey, tally one more on the wall. But we just say that so you can understand that we worked with a lot of school owners. And I challenge anyone in this group to introduce me to 450 tech guru school owners that have tons of time on their hands to implement this.
That's a good
If you can
challenge.
find, yeah, if you can find 450, I'll give you the student magnet for free because it doesn't exist. You probably know a couple young guys that are tech savvy or they have tech savvy employees, but there's not 450. So the fact that we have about 450 schools using this system successfully just speaks to the simplicity of it, and that our mission is to get you in the classroom. That's what our mission is to equip you to get in the classroom. So to the question that comes up a lot, like, hey, I'm not a tech guru and I don't have the time bandwidth. Good. This is for you, kind of thing, because
Yeah.
really you're spending more time asking someone else to do it for you. Because how many times when you hire someone else to grow your business, do you have to call and follow up and check in and readjust and say, hey, this isn't working, that's not working? If you could just cut that out alone, how much free time would you have?
Right.
So that's definitely something that we try to implement and help you implement, is to be just more time free. So you can do the things you want with your family, you can do the things you want with your school. Now, Amy had a question that just popped in. And if anybody has any questions about, okay, what does that entail? What does it look like? Go ahead and put them in the comments. I'd love to dive deeper into that. I've got a lot of people on the call, so please don't hesitate to type in your questions. No dumb questions here for today. Amy just joined the group, I think today or yesterday. So welcome to the group, Amy. It's great to have you.
Awesome.
My last name actually used to be Jones, and my sister's name is Amy. So when it said Amy Jones, I was like, is that my sister jumping in the group? So, I didn't know she opened a martial arts school. Amy just soft opened the school in January, hard opened in February. So we fully opened. What's a reasonable expectation of the students in the first year? That's a great question. First year, looking ahead, John, what would you say is a reasonable expectation for growth for Amy?
Wow, that's a really good question. So I think it's all really going to depend on how you market the school. So first of all, yeah, congratulations on opening the school. Soft opening in January, hard opening in February is awesome. That's exciting. I would say here's what I can tell you as far as averages go. I have seen some schools really kind of hit the pavement hard if they don't do any Facebook advertising. Let me clarify that. They don't do any Facebook advertising and they just get out there into the communities, kind of the old school of like, let's just get out in the community and do events and do, parades and all that stuff. A couple of students a month is not unusual in the first year. So maybe after 1 to 2 years, you're at like 25 students doing it that way. I've seen some schools that have good systems in place, depending on the brand that if you're like with a uh,
Organization.
organization. Yeah. Thank you, Travis. I don't my brain sometimes doesn't work. And that's why I keep Travis around, because he just like gives me the words.
I can actually pause you for a second. I don't mean to cut you
Pause
off,
me.
but I'm
Pause me.
curious to get some engagement from Amy. Let me ask you this question, Amy. How many students would you like to have in the
Mm.
first year to feel like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad we did this. This is a life changing decision to open this school. Kind
Oh,
of
I
flip it
love
back to
that.
you, because I
I
want to
love
see
that
where
question.
you're at and see what you think is realistic and see if it kind of matches up with our experience with new schools. Because we worked with a lot of new schools. So go ahead while you're typing that in,
We
Amy.
have.
I'm very curious what
We
you
have.
would love, not just like kind of like, what's reasonable? What would get you going like through the moon, best decision of
Excited.
your life kind of thing? Um, we worked with a lot of schools that either just opened or are about to open. I love when schools that are just opened or about to open look at trying to figure out a way to grow
Hmm.
first, because that's the time to do it. I'd
So
say
smart.
about, yeah, the other schools that are doing it wish they would have done it.
Every time.
Every time. Oh, I wish I would have done this 5 years ago, right when we opened. So I'm curious, Amy, where your mindset is at as far as what your expectations are. Because a lot of times that's going to drive the thing. If I think I can lose 30 pounds, okay. If I think I can lose 50, but if I think I can lose 10, then when I get to 8, I'll kind of naturally be like, all right, I'm kind of done here. It's all I can
Foot
really
off the gas.
achieve. Yep. So, all right, perfect. James has a response. He's in his second year and he peaked at about 45 members. Okay.
Yeah,
So,
there you
James,
go.
I'm curious for you too. And then, John, I'll let you kind of go to the averages while people are responding.
Yeah.
James,
Yeah.
what would you expect in the next year to just be through the moon? So currently Amy's at 80, getting about 2 to 3 per week.
He's at 30, not 80.
I'm sorry, 30, and has about 2 to 3 per week and is expecting up to 10 to 15 per month.
Got it. Okay. Cool. And you have a plan to do that, Amy? Like you have a system in place to enroll those
It looks
10
like
to
she's
15 a
using
month?
Facebook and technology. So
Facebook and technology. Love it. Go Facebook and technology. Are those Facebook ads or is that Facebook? How are you using Facebook? Love to know. But yeah, so while you're answering that, Amy, I'm going to go ahead and jump over to James real quick. So second year peaked at about 45 members. That's almost dead average. I mean, that's like so typical of what we typically see with schools that aren't doing paid advertising. So James, if you're not doing any kind of paid advertising, I'd say that peak is about peak ads and group. Okay, so she's getting into the group too. Cool, awesome. So would love to chat with you, Amy, if you want a little bit of extra help there, or anybody really that's on the
Or really
call
just some
now.
insight, because one thing, sorry to cut you off, John. One thing with new schools that I found is you can kind of launch. This happens a lot. Like premier schools have run into this a bit. A lot of schools have run into this where they launch. There's like a big influx because it's something new in the community. People have never seen it. So there's some early adopters. So it's a quick takeoff. To your expectation, Amy, I would expect that every month. So having the
Absolutely,
expectation of 10 to 15 per month. If it starts to slow down, you're in month 2. If you're doing things right, that should keep consistently going. If a flag for you would be that it's not going right is this month it falls off a cliff. It just stops. Like it's like, hey, no one's coming in anymore. It was working 10 to 15 a month, and now we're kind of doing nothing. And if you really want to know, honestly, Amy, we can just find a time to chat. Just type the word game in the comments, and we can find a time to chat and just get a little bit more details as far as instead of kind of going back and forth in chat. Get on the phone and actually, hey, what is your offer? How much are you spending? Is there room to spend less? Because those are pretty good results, but if you could be spending too much to get those results, there might be some ways to tighten that up and still get the same results. So if you just type the word game, Amy, our program director Ignacio will reach out, get you on the calendar, just do some kind of deep dive into what's going on, and you might be on the right track. It might be like, hey, you're crushing it, keep it going, which is great for you because you have confirmation, or hey, here's how you can save some money or adjust things long term, which is great for you because you can save some money and adjust things long term.
for sure.
James, awesome. Thanks for coming. The word game, Amy. Ignacio will reach out here in a couple minutes to get you on the calendar. And again, that game plan is just to help you, give you some insight. Love that you have an open mind in your school. It tells me you're going to be successful.
Definitely.
James, $600 a month on Google and Yelp. So that's an interesting thing there, John. $600 a month. I like the number.
I do.
I'm going to be, if I'm honest with you, James, don't love the locations they're going to
Mm-mm.
for growth. So, John, what do you think about Google and Yelp versus like Facebook as far as helping James get some growth?
So 600 a month on Google and Yelp, and at 45 students, I'd say that's not great. What I would say is a better platform to leverage that on is going to be Facebook ads. If big qualifier, if you know how to run the ads, with 600 spent on Facebook ads, you should be getting 10 students a month, probably, maybe 5. Even if you got 5 students a month, 5 to 10 consistently. Some schools are getting more, but that's Yelp. I don't know, James, maybe you can share your experience on Yelp, but I've never heard of anybody getting any students from Yelp that were any good.
In my experience, and James, I'd love to hear yours in the chat. Again, I've talked to a lot of school owners. Yelp is, lack of a better term, is somewhat of a scam. It's kind of like, hey, if you list with us and you get this package, then it will, get this ranking on the search and this many reviews and things like that. And it sounds great because you probably used Yelp for things and you probably used Yelp for restaurants and stuff like that. So it's like, okay, cool, that'd be great for me. It's not reaching people that aren't looking for martial arts yet. It's not reaching the next level of growth. It'll help you get to about 45 students. It might have, bring in a couple here and there. But it won't. There's a lot of things that'll get a lot of school owners to about 45 to 50, 60 students. There's a lot of things that'll get you to brown belt. Those same exact strategies that got you to brown belt won't get you to black belt. You
Right.
can't go into a black belt test with brown belt strategies. You'll lose, right? You'll fail the test, or you can't fight a black belt with brown belt strategies. You'll lose.
Yeah.
So just kind of fine tuning those strategies and how you're allocating your marketing budget to be black belt strategies. So that way your school can get over that threshold. A lot of schools get stuck at about 40 to 50 students. They plateau. They start to add 2, lose 3, add 6, lose 5, and they kind of just bounce around. And it's not until they start implementing new processes that they can get to 100, 150 and really get to that next tier. So Yelp,
Totally.
yes, it'll get you listed on voice search with Amazon Alexa and Siri, which is an awesome thing to do. Most people, when you're trying to grow your school from 50 students to 150 students or 100 students, James, I'm curious what your goal is. It's not going to be people wandering around their house saying, hey, Siri, what's the closest martial arts school? Hey,
No.
Alexa, but she's going to listen to me now. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's not, it might get you a couple students here and there, but it's not worth what you're spending on it. And that's really kind of, we want to make sure
Exactly.
every dollar you're putting in returns at least 2, if not $10 back.
Yeah.
So
And
same thing, James. I'd love to dive a little bit deeper. If you want to comment game, we can get find some time. But John, I'm not sure if you have any input, or James, you have any other follow-up
just
questions?
just a little added onto there. So yeah, Google actually is a pretty decent platform at a point, but it's never the first platform I would go to. So the way we structure it is what's the biggest lever we can pull first, what's the cheapest, most effective, most profitable, long term solution. Facebook ads, for sure, by far, destroys every other platform. After that, then once you've got Facebook dialed in and you've got that budget maxed out to the best you can do, then we go to Google Ads. We also do some SEO stuff later. Like some people just get the order messed up. It's kind of like if somebody came in and was like, I just want to learn how to punch through a board, or I want to know how to break ice. It's like, well, let's get the fundamentals first, right?
Right.
If you want to learn how to kick through a board, maybe we need to learn how to chamber that kick first, right? And then as you get into black belt, depending on the form that you're in, but like in Taekwondo, I remember my son Colin was going through Taekwondo. It was chamber, chamber, chamber the kick all throughout, right? But then you get to black belt and they're like, don't chamber the kick anymore. So things change when you get to different levels. And it's the same thing with marketing as well. So it's, Facebook ads are definitely the easiest, fastest, quickest, most profitable. Like there's nothing that really can beat Facebook ads right now. Once you get them to the point, it maxes out, and then you got to go to Google. Then you got to go to maybe a Yelp listing. I wouldn't be paying for Yelp advertising, but a listing is okay. You can get listed on a bunch of websites relatively cheaply and super easily. There's actually technology that does what's called artificial intelligence search. I think it's what it's called. We use it in our we offer it as a service to like more advanced people that already have their Facebook ads set up and have their website set up, where basically it puts it on all that stuff, Alexa and all the Siri and all those searches. And if somebody types in a question that's like a question, it pulls the SEO from your site and all that stuff. That's super advanced. You don't need to do that stuff. You got 45 students, you get you to the next goal, the next milestone. You can do that with Facebook ads and way more efficiently on a $600 budget. So sorry, I don't mean to beat a dead horse, but I just want to make sure you understand, like, I don't want you to feel bad about spending that money on Google and Yelp. Like, and Yelp has their sales pitch, Google has their sales pitch, Facebook has their sales pitch, but we don't have, like, we teach all those things, and my preference is not one to the other, because to me, it doesn't matter. Like, I don't have any financial gain, whether you go on Facebook, whether you go on Google, whether you go on Yelp. I can only tell you what we found to work the best. So we're kind of unbiased in that. And if something comes out and works better, we'll just point you to that. People were so excited about TikTok. And I was like, well, let's try it. And we've tested some stuff. And when they first came out, I remember I literally saw an ad for somebody, let me run your TikTok ads for your martial arts school. And I was like, this is interesting. Let me see this. So I started looking at TikTok. When that ad came out, you couldn't even geographically target people on TikTok. So you'd have to run a nationwide campaign for your little radius of like 5 miles around your school. It made no sense. So that's why we want to educate you. That's our number one goal, is educate you on what's going to work the best and help you get those results. So hopefully that is helpful. Hopefully that answers the questions. Getting a lot of engagement here, Travis. I'm enjoying this.
Yeah, that's great. If anybody else has any new questions to come in, go ahead and type them in the comments. I think one big hurdle that I'm seeing in the comments, and again, just talking to school owners regularly, is if you want to market, you need to have a budget. So having this idea of, hey, I don't have, unfortunately, a lot of school owners aren't necessarily like Amy, where they're like, hey, we're opening, we need to have a marketing budget to grow the school quickly. A lot of school owners, unfortunately, opened the school and then retroactively said, okay, now we need to market. And the marketing wasn't part of the monthly budget. So it's kind of like, hey, whatever we have left over, we have a couple $100 here, $100 here. What would you say, John, to a school owner that says, hey, I want to market, I want to grow, but I just don't have a marketing budget?
Two things to that. So number one, I don't believe in marketing budgets anymore. I believe it's an investment, like you talked about earlier. So I believe, yeah, you have to have that initial first month, maybe the first 6 weeks, as like if I lose this, or if I don't get this back in the next 6 weeks, I'm not going to crumble and go out of business. Like you got to have at least that. So maybe it takes a little time to get that little cushion there. But I don't believe in having to put money into marketing over and over again if it's not producing results and paying you dividends, right? We just had a member who was in our group that posted something to the tune of, I didn't spend, he put on marketing, but I invested so much in my marketing and I pulled out something like $9,200 from that same deposit. So looking at it differently, if you have a system in place that can feed into what we like to call the flywheel effect, where you can spend $1 on ads and that it will generate leads, book appointments, sell paid trials so that those paid trials will actually pay for the ads. That's the ideal situation, because if you can do that, it really gives you an unlimited marketing budget. You just decide this is how much it costs to get a student, and this is how much I make from that student. And it's high. That's always higher, right? What you're making is higher than what you're spending. You just decide how many students you want to put in. You do the math and you say, I'm going to put in this much money because I want this many students out. And as long as you have a predictable system in place, boom, it's easy. And then you don't need a marketing budget. It's not a line item like rent or, other expenses that go out and don't really see a financial return. Sure, there's, obviously there's a return on your rent investment because of your location, you get students, but like you actually get the money back in your bank account when you run an ad that is effective at the right budget, with the right setup and the right system in place around that ad, as far as like follow up and enrollment. It's a no brainer. You just put more in to get more out.
Right. And if that's something you're like, okay, well, what does that process look like? We have done some trainings on that. So go to the guide section in the group. Or if you'd rather just have like a specific, okay, hey, give me the blueprint on exactly how do I take a marketing process without really any type of budget to just be its own self-fulfilling investment, its own flywheel, if you will. Do you have a step-by-step process? We do have a step. That's really what we do. So if you're kind of like, hey, that sounds great, I've never really had a system like that, just go ahead and type the word game in right now. We'll just kind of share some information, see if it's even a system that would work for you. And if so, definitely share what that system looks like so you can kind of just visually, we'll actually send you a video that visually shows you kind of how it all works. And then just kind of talk about, hey, is this something that you can plug into your school or not? So some of this to me sometimes feels like, oh my gosh, okay, that sounds awesome, but like I don't even know where to begin. That's why we do what we do, is so you don't have to go spend time and energy. So just type the word game in the comments if you'd like that type of process. If you'd like a process where the marketing budget, if you will, is self-funded by new students coming in the door. It's like, how cool is it that a new student comes in the door and says, hey, here's some money so you can go get some more new students.
Right.
Like if a student said that to you, you'd be like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And that's essentially what our process is designed to do. So if you want to know more about that process, just go ahead and type the word game in the comments, and either myself or John or Ignacio will reach out just to, again, find 5-10 minutes, learn more about your school, see what processes you have in place, talk to you about what a new process might look like, and then see if it's something that would even be a fit for you. But that's really as far as questions go, unless anybody else has anything, John. I know we've covered a lot, right? We've covered new schools. We've covered the best areas to send our marketing investments. We've covered some mindset stuff of, hey, what's the risk if I don't take a step and do something different? And I'm going to take a step back here, John, if that's okay. And Beats, you were transparent earlier. I love everybody in this community. I say this with love. If your school is exactly where it was a year ago, it's going to be exactly where it is a year from now. Nothing's going to change.
At best.
At best. If anything, you're playing with fire because students will leave, and now you're kind of hoping people come in. If your school is not growing, it's dying. If your faith is not growing, it's dying. If your relationships aren't growing, they're dying. If things are just stagnant, if plants aren't being watered, then they're going to die. So if you're looking at your school and it's like, hey, I've been in this group for a while, I've watched a lot of videos, or I was just kind of doing my goals for this year and where we want to be. And oh my gosh, it's the same exact goal I had last year. We didn't make any headway. You need to do something different. I'm not saying it's us, but what I'd love to do is jump on a game plan call with you and figure out what that something different is so we can point you in the right direction. We pointed a lot of people to other businesses that are a great fit for them. That's our heart, is to help you get off of that slow death that can happen in a school and get you onto really great success and growth. So That's my kind of tangent for the day, John.
I love it. It's a good tangent. It's meaningful and it's needed. So that's when we always lose all of our our viewers, when we start calling people out on their nonsense.
Yeah.
They're like, "Oh, I've heard enough of this." But
Yeah,
that's all
we
right.
lost about half the viewers as I said
Yeah,
that.
that's okay. We're not here for the views, guys. We're here to
Yep.
help you. So those of you that are still watching, you're the ones that we care about. You're the ones that are making a difference. And if you left for another reason, we're just teasing a
We
little
care
bit.
about you too,
We care
but
about you.
see you next time.
Maybe next time. Maybe next time. Yeah. So, I love it, man. I love doing these calls. I love doing the chats and getting the feedback and stuff. And I think one thing that we just haven't really touched on enough that I just want to mention, because as you were talking before, it really helped me remember that I don't think we talk about this enough. Not only is the marketing flywheel, when you said, you got me excited when you said, imagine if a student came in and just gave you money and said, here's some money for some new students. Not only does that happen like in real life in our program, but the new students you're attracting are like people that actually want to be there. So there's no
Right.
like process, there's no like slimy sales stuff that you have to do. You're not trying to convince anybody of anything. It's very natural for a person to come in and just like be ready to do the next step. And then when you ask them for the next step, they're just ready to do that because we've figured it all out. We've like timed it all out and figured out like this is when people are ready to do this. Here's when people are ready to do this. And then the ads will just attract the right people at the right time before any other person can attract them. They're going to get attracted to your school. And then the process just snowballs from there. So it's exciting for me to see that kind of stuff. And I love that picture of just like a new student coming in and just paying you for new students, because that's really what it's all about, right? So let's just do one more invitation. If you want to get on the phone with us and just talk through this more specifically for your school, your location, without any kind of a sales pitch, because guess what? We eat our own dog food around here. We're not going to try and convince you to do anything. We're here to help. We're going to show you we can help you by actually helping you. And then when you're ready to take another step, get on the phone with us, do that. And we're not going to ask you to do anything that we don't think is going to be great and beneficial for you. And we do zero. How much training do we do on overcoming objections, Travis? None.
Zero.
We don't even talk about it. If somebody has a quote unquote objection to not joining, that just tells us they're not ready to join. So we don't do any of that kind of nonsense. We don't have to. We are blessed and fortunate enough to have enough people interested in joining our program that we don't have to actively convince the extra 10% and force anybody into the that's not our first impression with you, or our first initial transaction with you. If you're ready to join a program, is not going to be us convincing you and high-fiving that we closed the deal. That's not how it works around here. We want to help you. So I just want you guys to know our hearts and know where we're at. We want to help. So if you want some help, type the word game in the comments right now. We will reach out to you and get you on the calendar, get on the phone, and have a quick chat and go from there. So I guess that's it. If there's no more questions, anybody else coming in on
No,
questions?
that's all that came in so far. And if you're watching this on the replay, put your questions in. John and I are always monitoring the group. So if there's a question that comes in, we'll either comment back to you or maybe send you a personal message on Facebook with some more details, or maybe even like a recorded video or something, just to kind of give you some depth. So if you're on the replay, tell us you're on the replay so we can keep an eye out. We get notified when someone says that they're on the replay. Just type replay. This is late now. It's the end of the thing. And we said it earlier, but just put your questions in or reach out to us directly. Add me as a friend on Facebook. I'm always checking my Facebook Messenger. Send me a question. I'm happy to get clarity for you and help your school grow.
Sounds great. Awesome. Well, thanks for being with us, guys. We're here every Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern. We usually have a more structured training for you. Today, we kind of free flowed it and just kind of answered some questions as we could. But we'll see you back here next Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern right here in the group.